3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, and we welcome you to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise. If we have not had a chance yet, happy 4th of July. Of course, a couple of days after the 4th, but it's still, I guess we can call it, Chris, the 4th of July weekend. And good to see you on the 4th and all the stuff going on. It's a Boise Music Fest today. So officially, can we call this 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. I love a lot of great stuff going on in Boise this weekend, which we always love to talk about that. And I got my in-laws in town, and so we had a great week.
So is that okay? You don't put them like in the mother-in-law's basement or anything?
No.
Okay.
We get along great.
You do? Okay. Well, we had your beautiful wife on last week, and I've had more people comment about in terms of I really like that aspect of the show from a mom's point of view, and I think that has if this is the first time you've listened to the Chris Lofthus Radio Real Estate Show, people say, well, is it just about real estate? No, it's about all the things that go into a home, from air conditioning to, in this particular case, finding a school.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of why we had her on last week, because we get so many questions. We have so many people that are moving into the area from just different states, different cities. And it's kind of nice to have a point of view of when Vicki came on, she discussed, moving to the area and just the hurdles that they go through, from the small things like, who is your heating and AC guy? Who is, where do you put your kids into school, and all the things we talked about last week. So it was kind of nice. We had a lot of good comments about it. So, the point of the show is we keep a positive spin on what's going on in Boise, what's going on in general, not just real estate, but what's going on with the economics portion as well.
Yeah, and we say Boise, Meridian, Caldwell, Napa, the entire Treasure Valley and beyond. If you want to reach out to us, it's 350-6228, 350-6228, a chance for you to talk to the lovely and talented Annette, who puts on this show each and every week. It's chrislofthus.com. She posts the show if you've missed any of that. And also, we will take emails at contactus@clgeagle.com. Now, Chris, I don't know if you can see into a, what do you call that, a crystal ball?
Right,
you have ESPN, but I heard you say heating and air conditioning. I'm guessing that's kind of a hint who's coming on the show this week.
Yeah, we talk about guests that we bring on the show, and we talk about the different people we bring on. I was talking to we were talking before the show started, and our whole point is just like, we're having Jeff Cox on from Right Now Heating and Air, and the point is we're talking about kind of what they do as a company, and we talk about why we do the show and what kind of the point is. The Chris Lofthus Group is, I feel we have a really good reputation, and I kind of like to put my stamp of approval on companies that I feel are going to go, going to come out, and like you say, you're not going to get the taillight warranty, and Jeff's going to return your phone calls. Jeff's going to come out and he's going to give you a fair price, and he's going to give you a fair deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be Jeff Cox. Right Now Heating and Air Conditioning will join us in the show as we do each and every week. We kind of start out with the snapshot. Chris, you're the best in the Treasure Valley, maybe in the business, as far as giving potential buyers and sellers an idea of what to look for and what not to look for. So let's start out in essence in Ada County. What are you seeing median sales prices right now?
We try to watch this, and it's kind of interesting, Dave. I ran the numbers this morning, and we always talk about inventory level numbers, and they're always hovering around 2,200, which I don't necessarily like. I like a healthy market's about 3,000, horrible market's 6,000. So we talk about what that number really means. Well, I never really pulled out before, and I decided to pull out. There's a term called to be built. So basically what it is, it's just, someone owns a lot and a builder, or it could be a homeowner, or someone like you and Claudia own a lot, and you put a sign up there, or you put it on the MLS as a to be built. Well, that's not necessarily inventory if you look at the historical proof. And so if you pull up all the inventory, it's 2,200 homes. You remove the to be builts, and there's only 1,900 homes in the market. And so you start looking at that. You look at the fact that, how it's jumping all around. 18% of that is new construction, which is incredible. 4 months ago we were at 24%. 2 weeks ago we were at 9%. Now we're back up to 18%. And so that number is bouncing all over the place, which is leading us to believe the fact that homeowners are having to turn to new construction now. So what they're doing is they're coming in, they're looking, and they're saying, "Wow, I can't believe between $200,000 and $300,000, that's all there is for a 4-bedroom house in Meridian." And what they're doing is they're turning to places like Paramount. Paramount's busting through to phases 7 and 8 where you live. And you start talking about that type of activity and that type of movement that's going on. It's a great push. I'm not really comfortable with that, especially 1,900 homes. It's, we talk about market correction and all of that, which is great because we know that, the short sales and the foreclosures have kind of gone away. Not totally, but for the most part, it's washed out. So, that's kind of a tricky number, which when we talk about, appreciation, what is true appreciation as opposed to market correction. So I think we've already corrected in the marketplace where, the average sales price is, we talk about $212,000 for new construction, but now we're going to start seeing true appreciation.
Okay. So that was a topic last week when you talked about correction versus appreciation.
Right.
My guess is, and I'm just basing this on what you've told me, there's probably not a lot of $100,000 houses on the market right now.
Right. And we discussed this last week, which is pretty incredible. And I got this, I double checked it just to make sure it was true. But if you look in the $100,000 range over the last 11 years, closed transactions around that $100,000 range, over half of them were done last year alone. So if you look at that number, it's just gigantic. And you look at half of those houses have sold in the last year, just in 2011, over the last 11 years. So you look at that number and you see what the pressure it's pushing on the $200,000 range, $300,000 range, and on up.
Yeah. So I look at your numbers here, and Annette's put a couple of these together, but in essence said 169. Is that right, or is that that's not a misprint? There's only 169 $100,000 homes out there.
Yeah, 100,000 or less. There's only 169, which is actually way up because it was way down a few weeks ago. But like we talk about, you have to look at that number and you go, okay, just like when you look at normal inventory numbers, you also have to realize, hey, let's just be honest here and say there are houses on the market that are overpriced. They're never going to sell. People are just unrealistic with the number. And then you start looking at, like, when you look at 169 houses, we're seeing multiple offers. I mean, I've heard stories up to 10 offers, first hour it's on the market. So you start seeing that. And that's what I talk about, the upwards push, because when people are selling those $100,000, $150,000 houses, a lot of times most of those people are buying in the 200, 250 and so on.
All right. Give us our nationwide snapshot, because I think they're starting to get it after listening to the real estate guru, which would be you here, whether it's television or radio, or what were you giving me a hard time about the other day, CNBC or CNN, right? We say continually negative news all the time. But I think they're hearing what Chris Lofthus is saying is the nationwide picture is not a snapshot of where we live. What are you seeing nationwide, Chris?
Nationwide, I mean, it's a fact. When you look at residential home sales, or you look at, inventory levels are off by 21% from just last year alone, which is leading us to some really great recovery. And, a lot of people in Idaho really don't, especially around Boise, they talk about California people moving in here, people from Phoenix, and some people don't like it. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of great people who move into the area. And what's happening is their markets are shoring up there, which is putting pressure on Boise. So as soon as people start seeing recovery in places like Phoenix, Seattle, Southern California, those areas, which are typically the people that move here because they want to stay closer to the West Coast. Boise's really easy to get in and out of, and for people to come visit. But you look at that, and what's happening is those markets are putting pressure on Boise, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing.
So tell me more about, speaking of visitors, your in-laws. Did they come in from Chicago, or where are they at?
No, they came in from San Diego. And,
they did.
This is what we talked about. This is what we talked about last week. Is the fact
that.
And
Mom, Dad, if you're listening, we're not picking it. Chris really is here. I know he said he went to get a loaf of bread, and you haven't seen him for a couple of hours.
Right. So yeah, what's funny is we talked about people moving in here, and for example, I sold my parents' a house. So as soon as we moved here 5 years ago. When we moved here, and we see a lot of this, I see a lot of it even leaving Boise, which is just, I'm not trying to just pump Boise up, is that grandparents and the baby boomers seem like they're following their children around. They want to be around the grandchildren. Like, for example, we moved here 5 years ago. The following year, I sold my in-laws a place in Banbury Meadows in Eagle. And 2 years after that, my mom and dad moved here. So we're seeing that. Like, example, I told you last week, a client of mine mine's son got transferred to Boston. About a year later, we sold the parents' house and they moved to Boston. So it's kind of a natural flow for parents to want to follow and be around the grandchildren. But all of that's leading to great news for Boise. Just not in real estate, but just in general, and the attitude of what's going on around here.
Maybe I should have you call my mom and dad because I'm trying to get them to move.
I met
here.
your mother. You remember that?
Yeah, and my mom's like, "No way am I moving next to you. You're too crazy." So maybe you can kind of coach
Does your mom
her.
live in Paramount?
No, she lives in Coeur d'Alene. So I'm trying
really?
to get her to move here, but she, something about her crazy son. So, Chris, you mentioned this earlier, but Jeff Cox, right now heating and air conditioning, will join us. Prior to the show this morning, I was just visiting with him. I said, well, this time of year, I imagine you guys are really busy. And absolutely, one of the few heating and air conditioning companies that is working today. Most guys are like, oh, 4th of July, we're off on Saturdays, we're off on Sundays. He was telling me that in a month's time, and this is every month, not just a month, that there's over 100 hours of training that goes into his staff. You just don't hear that. Normally they say, you got a hammer and a crescent wrench, come work for us.
Right.
And we've got some, what do they call that, gaffer's tape, that big silver tape. You're good to go. Right now, heating and air conditioning, a whole different deal. You have to be trained and a professional. 100 hours, I guess that's putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I was talking to Jeff before we went on here, and I didn't really know to the extent of what Jeff did with his staff, but that's kind of, that's how we do things at the Chris Lofthus Group as well. We try to, we want trained professionals. We want talent. It just leads to a better atmosphere for everyone. When you talk about the training that Jeff does for his guys over there, it's kudos to him that there's actually a business owner that takes enough pride in what they do. We talk about the red carpet service. You talk about, you'd think about companies like Jeff's or like a plumbing company or whatever, and people go, oh, he's gonna come to my house, make a mess. They, you always hear these horrible stories and stuff. And I think that's why Jeff does what he does. And I think that's why he thinks that training at such a high level is so important.
Well, Jeff is going to join us. He's been in the Treasure Valley since 2000. And what I'm excited about, it's not just about right now heating and air conditioning, but he's got some public service tips. In essence, how to save money. My wife loves to leave the blinds open, and I keep saying we got to close those. So Jeff's going to answer to leave the blinds open or to close them. And I would encourage you to stay tuned because you're going to learn some tips on keeping your home more comfortable, but more importantly, how to save money.
Yeah, we talked about being green a couple weeks ago, and I think Jeff will kind of touch a little bit on energy use and that kind of stuff. Before we came on the air, like Jeff said, what's the point? What's the point of dumping $600-700 into repairing something, unit or whatever, as opposed to making the right decision? And that's kind of what Jeff's going to talk about as what they do as a company truly, and the advice that they'll give you, and as well as the service.
All right, very good. It is the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise. We hope you are having a fabulous July 7th. We're calling it the July 4th weekend. Of course, the Boise Music Fest in full-fledged underway. So if you're headed that way, just be careful. Enjoy yourself. And we will be back. Jeff Cox of Right Now Heating and Air Conditioning will be with us after this timeout.